a lot of fun, filled with a lot of fun, filled with a lot of moments. I gained another family out of it.
You might end up making a few friends. At the very best, you may discover a lifelong passion that you can pursue even outside of your time at SJSU.
It's easy to boil down the college experience to drinking, dancing, and clubbing. But whether that's a matter of glamorized movie representation, real-life experiences, or a mix of both is a different matter in itself. Rather, we're discussing the real-life experience of the connections fostered in an environment crafted for academic achievement. We're talking about student-run organizations and their effects on members and student leadership alike. People require connection, whether it's through in-person discussions or virtual collaboration, not just because of mandated group assignments or online lectures. We're social beings, hardwired to collaborate and connect with other people. Student-run organizations are just that, venues to create connections and develop relationships with people who we can relate to. Students use them to create homes away from home, developing friendships and family-like bonds to establish their own forms of social being. But then, what if it wasn't that simple?
This has been a week when more cities and states have started far more comprehensive shutdowns in a desperate bid to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 in this country. I spoke yesterday with Dr.
In 2020, COVID-19 challenged our abilities to adapt to unprecedented changes. Lockdowns and closures forced students into online learning. Campus universities like San Jose State had to adapt to a new normal, changing how they provided students with new methods of learning. Relatedly, student organizations had to do the same. But beyond learning, how to foster student engagement in a world mandated to stay apart. As a group of graduate students from San Jose State's Applied Anthropology program, we wanted to understand how student-run organizations adapted their outreach and interactions with students in light of the COVID-19 pandemic closures and their eventual return to in-person interaction. What methods did they use? How did students feel about these methods? And what we could learn from this experience. But before we continue, let's talk a little bit about our research site.
San Jose State is one of the 23 California state universities and is located in the heart of Silicon Valley. They have a large commuter student population, meaning that a large portion of the student population lives off campus and drives, bikes, walks, or uses public transportation to get to school every day. Student organizations often serve as a bridge for students to connect not only with the campus, but with other students. And once the COVID-19 lockdown began in March 2020, students resumed their courses through an at-home setting, meaning that this student organization setting that connected them to campus wasn't really an option to be in person with one another. Currently, there are over 350 active student organizations at SJSU. These organizations can be academic. They can also be focused on club sports, religion, sorority fraternity life, or any other common interests. Some of the narratives that we collected about student-led organizations during COVID-19 included Akbayan, Her Campus, the Women's Rugby Club, Christian for International Students, and a few of the sororities on campus.
In order to stay safe, students were forced inside. Over the span of nearly 2 years, they were left to their own accords. So then, how did students initially react?
Sadness, anger, confusion, anxiety. These are just a few of the emotions students experienced at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. International students were faced with a choice of going home and studying from afar or remaining in campus housing on a nearly deserted campus that more resembled a ghost town. One student described the reaction as feeling like they were in a movie or some unknown reality. In other words, it took time for the new reality to feel real. Many students reported struggles with mental health and loss of motivation. A basic needs survey conducted by SJSU Cares found that 82% of SJSU students' mental health had been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, while 46% of students faced employment concerns. Understanding the struggles students have faced and continue to face as a result of COVID-19 is important in understanding how universities can better aid student success.
As to meet these newfound demands and concerns, student organizations had to develop their own methods of fostering student engagement and well-being. So how did they adapt?
Student-led organizations adopted strategies to continue to foster a sense of community and build connections during the days of the lockdown. Student-led organizations' approaches to keeping involvement include group sessions, game nights, and other Zoom activities. At the beginning of lockdown, weekly Zoom meetings and group FaceTime calls made it easier for students to build a support system and maintain their social networks without leaving their homes. From the safety of their confined spaces, students felt a sense of comfort being able to build connections in their own homes.
One student had even stated, "I joined during COVID my freshman year. It was all over Zoom. Meeting the different type of girls in a way sort of made it a little bit more comfortable because, like, you're in your own home." However, with the eventual return to in-person classes in spring 2021, student organizations had to consider the concerns of hesitant students and those who called for in-person engagement.
As we transition to in-person, organizations have made it their priority to continue the COVID-19 safety protocols. Organizations use the approach of the hybrid accommodations to give concerned students an ability to engage in events taking place on campus, and other organizations adapted to new rules of social distancing. These accommodations make organizations' events accessible to many students as campus is slowly opening up again. Many students we interviewed spoke highly of their organization's adaptability efforts during the lockdown and stated that many of the methods effectively kept student engagement high. It is increasingly essential for organizations to promote resources and outreach support for their members. As we move towards a new normal, organizations have provided a safe space for students to build connections and a sense of community during an uncertain time and an ever-changing future.
Being given the opportunity and honor to talk with students about their personal experiences, we'd argue a lot of our recommended strategies for the future of student organizations come from them. Students had frequently cited the desire to always have a hybrid option, giving other students incapable of coming to in-person events the opportunity to engage with other students. Some even voiced their concerns about student organizations pushing for in-person events more so than hybrid ones. Additionally, the presence of a consistent student support system. Students had cited that their student organizations always echoed the use of on-campus resources for mental health, or their own forms of informal therapeutic support, like group talks and self-care workshops. Even the students who hadn't used them still appreciated and understood the importance of this kind of messaging. Other potential methods included the use of a social bubble, as to keep contact with a set amount of people to lower the risk of being exposed to COVID-19. Though we may have conducted our research, we argue there is still a lot to be done. There are plenty of other student organizations we did not get a chance to talk with, and sampled but a few students of the many thousands still out there. Conducting an assessment of needs could help student organizations address concerns that have yet to be discussed. Moreover, call attention to university and state officials on the importance of the financial and social support of on-campus organizations. In the end, despite the little resources student organizations had, they truly did the best to accommodate student needs and calls for engagement. Given the uncertainty of our future, it is with time and experience that student organizations can further develop their skills to continue fostering environments of student connection. As graduate students in a time of uncertainty, we've learned from our peers the greatest resource we have is each other. Regardless of virtual or in-person interaction, the very connection itself is a valuable source of strength and vitality. We're capable of more than we think as a community, despite how divided the world seems to be. Like student organizations, we're better in numbers.
Meeting my new cohort and building that sense of support system and meeting new people, it kind of gave me, that sense of, oh, like this is what it should have felt like being like in an organization that I didn't have prior to the pandemic. So I feel like post-pandemic is better for me.